I hid behind this like snow pile, and I had scissors in my hand, and I was like, if I just cut off her hair and show and take a picture and show it to her boyfriend, because I was really mad that she had gotten away with this because she was in a relationship as well. I was extremely angry. It just felt very unfair to me that she ruined my relationship and I can't ruin hers, and she's still happy with her boyfriend. So my plan was like cut off her hair, show her boyfriend, be like, okay, this girl fucked my boyfriend. This is why I did this. But all of that went wrong. She broke the scissors. I got like a rush of adrenaline running towards the car when she was in there, and she saw me, started kicking me immediately. She broke my scissors. They kind of stabbed into my hand a little bit. I I then thought I had like half a second to think. I was like, if I use these scissors, I'm gonna end up physically like hurting her with them. So I dropped them, and this wasn't my plan. But then I physically assaulted her.
I was headed to meet Anne, who was diagnosed with BPD and PTSD when she was 18 years old. According to the Canadian Mental Health Association, BPD affects 1 to 2% of the general population. The National Institute of Mental Health outlines borderline personality disorder as a serious mental disorder marked by a pattern of instability in moods, behavior, self-image, and functioning. People living with BPD experience extreme episodes of depression, anger, and anxiety that can last from a few hours to days. There are multiple traits that distinguish borderline personality disorder. Fear of abandonment, intense and unstable relationships.
I will kind of like push the boundaries and see like how much can I push this person without them leaving me.
Unclear or unstable self-image. Impulsivity, suicidal behavior.
That's where I would get really suicidal because I would feel like I already tried to get help and nothing's working.
Self-harm, explosive anger, and a chronic feeling of emptiness. The cause of borderline personality disorder is not yet clear, but research indicates that genetics, brain structure and function, and environmental factors, such as a history of child abuse and neglect, may be linked to BPD. I hoped, by sitting down and talking with Anne, that I could develop a better understanding of what exactly BPD is and its causes. What about like innocuous behavior? Could your boyfriend say something that seems sort of trivial that would throw you off, or was it always a significant wrong they did to you?
I think that's what really confirms to me that I have a personality disorder, because like you use the word trivial,
Yeah.
like 90% of the things were trivial. I remember one time, it was probably 2 years ago. 2 years ago today, actually, my brother turned 18, and me and my ex had taken him out to a bar to go eat. And I remember there was this waitress wearing like really short shorts, and I wasn't necessarily threatened by her face or her appearance, but I just I feel psychotic when I describe this now. But there's like a few TVs on. I don't know if there's like a game or like hockey or something playing. She walked by a few times, and I would look at my boyfriend, and like I always do these like stupid little tests just to confirm, to see if like, is he looking at her? Like, I think he might look at her. Is he looking at her? And I'll like look and confirm. And a few times he looked, but honestly he could have been looking at the TV. But like, I let that like little idea, that little what if, like there's a voice in my brain that's like, he was probably looking at her ass when she walked by. And then that just starts like nagging at me. And by the end of the night, I was full on screaming at him.
The way you describe it's almost like you're anticipating, you're waiting.
I like how you describe it, because that's exactly how I saw it. It's like I wake up in the morning. This was in the past, it's not so much now, but I would wake up in the morning, and then I would just be flooded with these thoughts. And like, I feel like every single moment of my day, I'm walking around like there could be a trigger like left and right, like whether it's a name, like I said, or whether it's my boyfriend looking at somebody, or whether it's me scrolling on Facebook for 3 hours looking at the things he liked on Facebook. Like, I feel like I would be fighting triggers like all day. And like, yeah, it was very much like I was always on guard that something was going to happen that would threaten my relationship.
When you have your angry episodes, you refer to yourself as her, almost like you have a different personality.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about her?
When I reach a certain level of angry, I feel like I'm there in my body, but I'm not in control. I feel like I'm watching things happen to me. and I'm watching myself do and say things so awful and mean and destructive, but I'm not really. I can't stop. I can't stop them, and I want to, but I can't stop these things from happening.
So it's dissociative.
Yep. Like when she's out, it's like just pure hate and pure like just it's almost like evil. Like I could look at the person I love the most on the planet and be like you're disgusting. Like I hate you. Like those are the things that I'll think when I think that she's triggered. I'd try to kill myself more than like 2-3 times. Like I would try to commit suicide because I felt like I would, by killing myself, I would kill her too, so I didn't have to deal with her anymore. So I didn't want to be that person.
So you attempted suicide 3 times?
They weren't like I was ready to go. It was like ambivalent suicide. It was like I'm ready to do it, but I'm not. So I would like take an extension cord and make a noose and like wrap it around my neck and go like hang it on something and like choke myself out for a couple seconds until I felt I was gonna go like out, and I'd bring myself back, like just trying to see like how close I could get to death, kind of thing. Like I don't know if I would count that as an attempt, but I was very much suicidal at those times.
What did the cutting do for yourself?
Just to release, it's an easy way out, and I did that up until maybe a few months ago. Like I'd have a fight with my boyfriend or something, and I would get so angry that I want to punch him out and be mean to him, but I would just go silent. I would go into my room and I would cut myself, and then it's like that emotion was taken out of my body. It's like, okay, I no longer have to process or deal with this anger or learn how to sit with it. Like I don't need to do that. It was an easy way out of anything I didn't want to feel.
But now you have these scars all over your arms and legs. Now that you're in a place of solidarity now, what do you feel when you look at them?
I hate the way people look at me sometimes. It really gets to me and it really bothers me. And I feel very embarrassed. But at the same time, I don't really know who I'd be like without that on my skin. Like I've always been like that person who has that on their skin, who does that. And it like, to me, it's just evidence of like how much I've really struggled over the course of my life. But in a way it makes me proud because like I did this to myself and like I'm better now.
I think the people who study BPD now, they say it's a mixture of genetics and as well as environmental, growing up, right, your childhood. And you said your father was deported when you were 8 years old. Do you think that had anything to do with it?
I didn't for a long time, but I had been seeing a psychologist this year, and I saw him for some time last year and then this year, and he says that he thinks he finally broke the surface of like why I developed, whether it's BPD or PTSD, and it was when I disclosed to him that my father was deported when I was 8. And I would ask a lot of questions to my mom growing up. She would always, I remember her telling me that he comes home, but you're asleep when he comes home. And then when you're awake, he's actually at work, so that's why you don't see him. And I just kind of like, I think I believed that, and I told my friends that at school until like I was like 10, I think like 2 years later. That's when I remembered I wasn't sad that I didn't see my dad anymore. I was just angry. Like maybe because I was lied to for like 2 years.
Why do you think your mom lied to you for 2 years?
I never asked her, but I like to think that she doesn't think I would truly understand why, but yeah, like you mentioned before, I was 8, I probably would have understood.
You said that your mother wasn't there for you emotionally a lot of the time. Did it get worse after he was deported?
I don't know if it got worse or if it just was the same, because my mom wasn't raised by her parents either, so I really don't think she really knew how to parent. Like I don't think she like really had that example for herself growing up.
She must have felt that abandonment similar to what you feel.
She might have, and I mean, when she was 19, she had my brother. A couple years later, she had my sister, my half brother, my half sister, and a couple of years after that, or a few years after that, she left them with her sister to go work overseas for a long time, and that her working overseas turned into her coming to Canada and then having a new family, which was me. So my brother and my sister never really had her growing up. So in a way, she also abandoned them, and maybe she didn't see how wrong that was because it happened to her. But she was never abusive or like had any was taught, like she was never like cruel or mean or anything.
Shortly after your father was deported, well, not a few years after, you started using drugs. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I I started doing I started experimenting with drugs with some kids. I was like 12, just turned 12, and there's these kids like my best friend at the time's older brother. They were like 15. They told me to ask my mom for money, so I did, and it was like $5, and I gave it to them. They gave me a pill. I remember I had a bottle of water in my room. I took the pill up to my room, and I took it there, and I don't remember the rest of the night. I might have blacked out, or maybe my memory's just like gone from that time. But that was the first time I did any drug, was by myself at my mom's. Um, from then, it became like smoking weed, skipping school to smoke weed. Um, I dabbled in ecstasy a little bit over the next like year or two, like a grade 7, grade 8, and then yeah, like slowly it just kind of I started alcohol was kind of the last thing that I tried in my early teens, and then I had a period of where I was drinking every single day. Like I would consider myself an alcoholic. I was blacking out like at least 3 times a week for a couple months, and then it really caused a lot of problems in my home. Like I would force my mom to go buy me alcohol. I would make her go drive me to the store, make her go in there and buy alcohol for me, with or without money for me, and she would just do it like um yeah, I drank a lot. I drank a lot. And I did any pill or any drug that was given to me, like just a bunch of random stuff. Like over the years it's just like everything, like 2CP, like coke, acid, mushrooms, like just everything. And it was until this year when I broke up with my ex that I was dating for like 2 years that I started doing crystal meth and GHB, and I did some heroin. Um, but yeah, it's just really gotten worse over the last like year and a half, I'd say. But I've been clean since like April.
What did make you stop using?
It got to the point where like I was hanging out in like just like really fucked up places. Like I had received a death threat from somebody that like I was flirting with. He like literally, like I was stuck at a hotel in like Spruce Grove. Like I had just done something like a sexual favor for money for drugs. But I remember the thing that really made me want to stop using and want to seek treatment after starting meth was I was hanging out at an apartment, and there's so many people there from like all walks of life. There was like 45-year-old people there. There was like an 18-year-old kid selling meth. He was waving a knife around. He was talking about how his dad got shot in the head when he was 6 and his brain splattered on him. Like this one woman was like 45 years old talking about how she has 5 kids and she never wants to be a parent. We've been here for 3 days. Nobody's slept. Like it was the most chaotic, most fucked up experience. And I looked around like at everybody. There was people my age. Like everybody was doing drugs there. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, I'm really not better than like anybody here. And like I'm looking at these people who are decades older than me, and like that's where I'm gonna be if like I keep doing what I'm doing.
You were a difficult child growing up, and your mom said she couldn't take care of you anymore, and you were sent to Philippines to go live with your dad when you were how old?
I was 14.
14. How was your stay in Philippines? Was it a good one? A bad one?
Good and bad. Um, Even if my dad wasn't abusive to me, I still would have done really awful shit there. Like, I, s- I was very promiscuous at the time after experiencing like my first sexual like assault.
What happened?
friend of my cousin's, we started hanging out without my cousin knowing about it. And yeah, I just thought he was cool. You know, he was 18, I was 14, and he had a car. None of my friends had a car. He would buy me food, he would buy me cigarettes. None of my friends could do that for me. I felt like, I don't know, it was cool. Like this, like 18-year-old liked me, you know, well, like as a friend. And then at least I thought it was as a friend, because he would say things like, "Oh, you better not be having sex with your boyfriend. I That's, you know, you're too young for that. Like, you're too young to be doing drugs." Like, he would say that shit to me, so I really much felt like he was my older brother.
Seems like he was almost grooming you.
Pretty much, yeah. Because, like, if he really meant those things or didn't want me to do these things, then he wouldn't have, like, forced me into having sex with him when I came over to his house to watch a movie. Because that's all I thought it was.
And he forced himself on you?
Yeah, like, he tried kissing me several times. I stopped him several times. I was like, "I can't. Like, I have a boyfriend." And, he just kept doing it. So then I was like, okay, like, I'll just let it happen. Like, I'll just let him, like, make out with me, whatever. Like, that's all it's gonna be. Because I'd never had sex at that time. So, like, I didn't really think that it was gonna, like, escalate. And then he started putting his hands down my pants. And, like, I honestly, I remember 2 times I pulled his hand out of my pants, because I wasn't doing that yet. And the third time he put his hands in my pants, he used force to put them down there. So I tried to take his hand out, and he wasn't allowing me to take his hand out. So that moment, I just kind of like, let him do what he was gonna do.
You lost your virginity to him, right?
Yeah.
Wow. How did you feel after, when you walked out of there?
I felt like I disassociated again. I remember, he drove me home that morning. I think I stayed there the night, and then I remember he drove me home that morning. And I just couldn't believe that happened to me. Like, you know, like, if you lose your virginity, some people are like in like almost like a love daze. Like, they're like, wow, like, that was awesome. For me, it was like, what the fuck just happened? Like, actually just lost my virginity. This fucking guy that I didn't even know, that he looked at me like that.
You remember some moments with your dad growing up that were abusive. Can you talk about that?
I snuck his motorcycle out, and I crashed, like, I scraped it one time. He put me on the back seat and tried to drive us into a wall, like he was gonna kill me. I was fucking traumatized. Like, I was screaming and crying behind him, and he was like driving it until we were like a couple inches from a wall, like stopping abruptly. Because one time he pulled out a gun on me, and I was like walking away from him, because he was trying to say, like, "You need to press charges on this guy that assaulted you." And I was like, "No, like, I'm not ready to do that." I walked away from him, and he started firing his gun at my right and my left side. And I remember I turned around. He kept calling my name. It had been about like five shots or so, maybe 4 or 5. And then I turned around and I walked up to him, and he had the gun like pointed to my head. And I was like, I just remember being so angry that I had no fear that this gun was pointed to my head. And I remember thinking at that time, I was like, if he's gonna kill me, like, I don't give a fuck. Like, that's on him. And then he was shaking and red in the face with anger with this gun at my head. And then he pointed it to the ground and emptied the clip. And then I think he like grabbed me by the shirt or by the back of my head or something, and dragged me inside. He would like threaten me in front of people. Like, I don't know, one time he like choked me and held me against the wall by my neck. He's backhanded me, like, just been very verbally abusive. He gets a kick out of scaring me and making me walk on eggshells. Like, he made me sit at the table with him to just kind of spend time with me. And I would sit there like just 7, 8 in the morning, just woken up, and he'd like walk downstairs, like, and like his footsteps just very distinct, and like he would walk up to like the table, slam his gun on the table, and sit there and stare at me. And like I remember being like, I was like 14, 15 when he was doing this. And I would be very fucking scared. Like, I didn't know, like, oh, is he in a bad mood? Is he gonna freak his shit on me? Is he gonna beat me up? Like, I didn't know if he was in a joking mood, because that was his one side, or, like, in an abusive mood. And sometimes he would stare at me, like, just pure disgust. And then he would be like, he would say something funny. Like, I would be terrified for, like, 5-10 minutes that he's fucking staring at me. And then he would just say something funny, try to poke fun at me, and try to make me laugh with him. Like, he liked to play, like, weird fucking mind games like that.
The one time you and your boyfriend were having sex. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, like, I don't know, we were, like, having sex one time, and I was, like, facing this way, and then the stairs are, like, over there. And I remember, like, we were just doing it, and then I, like, turned around to go look at the stairs, and, like, there's, like, a wall like this, and then, like, the stairs are, like, right here, and his head was, like, he was looking under the wall like this, like, I just saw his face there. Mm-hmm. And I was startled. Like, I was like, is that what is he doing? Like, I didn't say anything, I just stared at him. And then he, like, slowly, like, stood up and, like, walked into his room, and very quietly went into his room and locked the door. Never said a word to me. He found birth control in my bag one time. He found cigarettes in my bag one time. He would, like, make a fucking scene out of it. Like, he'd be like, why the fuck are you on birth control? What the fuck is this? Like, he's very confrontational. And that's, of all things, that's something he would have confronted me about. But I really feel like it's really sick that he didn't, because I feel like he didn't for a reason, because he was watching. And I don't know. I've never told him that I knew what he was doing.
You say you were so close with your dad and you talked to your dad. And that's something I'm still finding hard to grasp, is, like, the love you have for him, even though you went through so much abuse. Like, what do you think that is?
Maybe it's, like, a mixture of, like, an instinct to love your parent, no matter how, like, awful they are.
Do you still talk to him?
I just talked to him the other day.
Yeah.
Just, like, once every few months, and made me really angry the other day. I was like, hey, Dad, because I just booked a flight to the Philippines for January, and I just wanted to tell him that I was going there. I have other family there. I don't have to see him, but I was like, hey, Dad. And he's like, oh, you finally remember me. And that just really, like, kind of pierced through my heart. Like, I was like, after what you put me through, and after, I don't know, I don't think he has a right to say that to me.
Yeah.
I've been the one chasing him for love all my life. He doesn't get to say that I forget about him, because I had to chase him for a relationship with him. So that's kind of how it is between us right now. There's still a lot of resentment.
Do you think you will end up seeing your dad when you go to the Philippines?
Yeah, but, like, even my uncles and my mom, they're like, don't stay with him. Like, don't stay for, I'm going for over a month. They're like, stay a week max. Like, don't be, I don't know.
But why go back?
I want to see him. I hate that I do. I want to see him. He's very sick. And I want to see him before he dies. Like, I don't want to go back just for a funeral. And, like, at the same time, like, I want him to see my son. My son is his first grandson. He's never met him yet. So.
Yeah, what's interesting about your situation is that your mom wasn't abusive, but you didn't get that emotional capacity from her. While on the other hand, your dad was very abusive, but he showed affection at times to you, right?
Yeah. I think that's why I maintain, like, this, like, I still wanted him in my life and stuff, or that's why I put up with the things I did with him. It's because, like, yeah, he hit me yesterday, but, you know, he really loves me. Like, he gave me a hug today, or, like, I don't know.